Hey y'all, it's me, Beauty by El Marie, Lydia Marie, coming back to you guys for a very quick tutorial of sorts. I got a question about eyeshadow, and since I did some eyeshadow today, I figured now would be a good time for me to go ahead and answer a question that I got, and thank you for that. I love when people ask me questions about makeup and stuff because I like to teach. So I got a quick question about how to pick your eyeshadow palette, and this is what this brief IGTV is going to be about: how I pick my eyeshadow palettes, what I look for, and other user-friendly stuff. But I think those are the two main points of what I was asked. How do you pick an eyeshadow palette if you're just getting started in makeup? So I'm going to tell you how I do it and what I look for in some of my favorite palettes. Okay, so for me, the first thing I look for when I'm buying a palette is how many transition shades are there in this palette. What are their transition shades? What can I use? And as I explained a couple weeks back, I think this is on my IGTV too, your transition shade is the color that goes in your crease, and it's normally a neutral shade, something close to your skin tone, or a neutral shade that you can use in your crease to bring all the other colors on your eye together. So I look for palettes that I have at least at the minimum 3 transition shades. If the palette is like 6 pans or 9 pans, meaning 9 eyeshadows, I need at least 3 of those to be transition shades for me. So which palette do I want to show? I have a billion palettes here, so let me show to you this Mented Cosmetics. I think, yeah, let's do the Mented Cosmetics. It's dirty, but you know. So when I got this palette, this one I've used to death, right? So this is an everyday neutral palette. So I look for transition shades somewhere along these lines. Like I said, a brick color, something yellow, something peachy tan, something like that for my skin tone, right? I have to have a transition shade, at least 3 in a palette, in order for me to even bother with it. Unless it's a palette that is all colors, an all colorful palette like this one, like this purple all things, then I would grab something else from another palette. But if it's a palette that's, you know, supposed to be for everyday wear and stuff like that, especially if it's a neutral palette, you need to have at least, for me, 3 transition shades in there. And again, these are all matching for like my skin tone. But if you're a darker skin girl, you're browner than me or what have you, look at the color of the flesh of your eyes and try to find something that is close to your flesh color for your transition shade, right? But like with this palette, they have plenty in here to choose from. Like from this one, this one, this one, this one. So like 4 out of 9 out of 9 shadows I could use in my crease as a transition shade. So transition shades are first. Look for transition shades in a palette, especially if you're buying a big one like a 6 or 9 or 12 eyeshadow pan, okay? The second thing for me when I'm choosing my eyeshadow palette is how well do the matte colors perform. And the matte colors are any color without any shimmer, metallic, glitter, anything like that, right? So if you have a palette and it's 6 eyeshadows, 4 of them are shimmer shadows, but you have 2 mattes, I need to know how those mattes perform, because the mattes are going to be your transition shade. The mattes are going to be within your crease. When you're doing an eyeshadow look, you use mattes the most. So I want to know, how do those mattes perform? Are they soft? Are they chalky? If I have to dip my brush in it 1,000 times just to get a little color on my brush, it's not going to work. I need to know how the mattes perform in a palette. See, this palette from MAC that I just got is pretty big. It's 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's 12 in here. And it has a good amount of shimmer. This one, like all of those are all shimmer palettes, right? But if I pick this up on my hand and I can't see it just by doing this, and I can't rub it on here and get some good pigmentation, it's not gonna work for me. I need to know that the mattes that I'm paying for in a palette are gonna perform. If I just put this on my eye, is it gonna show up by itself? Is it gonna be hard to blend? Is it gonna be chalky and patchy? You know how you like chalk, you know what I'm saying? So for me, if I'm getting a palette, especially if it's a big palette like this one, the mattes have to be top notch. And I would recommend that too, because you use a lot of mattes on your eye before you use a lot of shimmer. I mean, to me, a shimmer is a shimmer is a shimmer. Is it soft? Is it, you know, does it feel good and stuff like that? The glitter is another thing, but I'm not wearing a gang of glitter on my eyelids anymore. You know what I mean? Unless it's something special, but mattes are what I look for. I need to know how the mattes are going to perform in a palette for me to do that. So this one I think is a pretty perfect palette. This is one that I picked up recently, the Too Faced Salted Caramel palette. Not only does it have a good number of transition shades, even though it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shades in here, right? Yeah, 2. So I can use this for a transition shade, this one, this one in the corner. If I wanted to go smoky, I could keep it cute with these, but the palettes have to perform well. It has to be cohesive. So like these is a matte, but look at it, right? Lots of pigment, I can do that. And I feel like it's gonna show up on my eye. So mattes are very important. I need to know how the mattes perform, what they're gonna do for me. Because if it's a bunch of shimmer, and the shimmers are great, but I'm not using shimmer every day, then what's the point? You know what I mean? So the last point for me for purchasing an eyeshadow palette is that it has to make sense. A palette is really those things that are put together. Normally they have some type of color story, or like this one, I think this one, this will work. Like this is a color story, right? It has different shades of peaches. I mean, girl, peach. Purples, pinks, and so berry shades. So it's a color story. It has to make sense for your personal style. If you're a cool tone person, meaning you look great in silvers, lavenders, blues, taupe, and things like that, then you'll want to reach for a neutral palette that has those colors in it. If you can't wear oranges or reddish colors or pumpkin spice kind of colors, then you want to go towards something cool tone. I like warm tone neutrals. Those are the things that look best on me. The browns, the oranges, it matches well with my skin tone. So when I'm looking for an eyeshadow palette, I need to make sure that it's cohesive and making sure that it will work for me. Now, I have put together, I very rarely buy all colorful palettes. I don't think I've bought one in a long time. I think the only exception that I've had over the last year, where is it at? Of course, I can't find it. The only exception I've had over the last year or two has been, oh my God, I cannot find it. It's from e.l.f. and it's the green and yellow, you know. It's called Hot Jalapeno. Goodness, here it is. So I'll buy little things like this with color, like these are $3. And honestly, these e.l.f. eyeshadow palettes, these bite size are some of the best on the market. $3 each. This is a color story that makes sense to me. Not only does it have transition shades, it has matte shades and shimmer. So when you're looking for an eyeshadow, make sure it makes sense to your personal style. I wouldn't go out and grab a palette just because it's popular, or just because someone popular released it, or just because it's a brand you really love. It's tons of brands that I really love that have eyeshadow, but they don't work for me. So I'm not going to spend my coin on them. You understand what I'm saying? So get a palette, start with a palette that works for your color story. If you know you're a person that doesn't like a lot of color in your clothing, and your daring thing is wearing a purple lipstick every now and again, I wouldn't go out and get a huge, 12 pan shadow of all bright colors, because you're not going to wear those. So make it make sense to you. I always say, and I was taught that with eyeshadow, if you can master a neutral eye, getting your neutral eye look down, you can master any other eyeshadow look, right? You really can. I had a mentor when I was first starting out doing makeup, and at the time I walked in, she was like, bring your eyeshadow, I want to see your techniques. And I walked in with a pan that had like 120 eyeshadows in them, not one neutral in the bunch. It was all rainbow shades and this. And she was like, what you think you're gonna do with this? I said, I'm gonna do a blue eye, blue eyeshadow, da-da-da. She was like, no, you need to learn how to do the basics of a neutral eye, figure out the shades, figure out the color palettes, and then we can move along to color. So if you're a beginner to eyeshadow, you can never, ever, ever go wrong with getting a neutral palette. You just can't. And then you can get a small one. You can get, one of these, like from Minted or something, or like I said, these little $3 joints from e.l.f. are some of the best on the market. They really are. So make it make sense to you. And, you know, pay attention to your personal style when you're picking eyeshadow. So I hope those little tips help. So just to go over them again about picking out an eyeshadow, if you are a beginner, making sure that the palette that you choose has at least 3 transition shades. If it's a small palette like this, have at least 1 shade that you can pop in your crease that is close to your flesh colored, that is a brown, tan, taupe kind of color. What color is this? Like a beigey, something like this, right? Something that's close to your tone, to your skin tone. I need to eat dinner, okay? I'm hungry. Something that's close to your skin tone as a transition shade. Make sure you have a transition shade. Secondly, in a palette, make sure the matte colors perform well. Your matte colors are the ones without any shimmer, glitter, metallic, nothing. You want to make sure they perform well, they feel good, and things like that, because you're going to use those the most when you're doing your eyeshadow. The third point is to make sure the eyeshadow palette makes sense to you. I get that we want to buy the hot, fresh, and new, but sometimes you save a coin by knowing what you're going to wear, right? You're not a red person. You're not a purple person. Why are you buying a palette with 3 or 4 purple shades? You know what I'm saying? So make it make sense to you. Make sure it's cohesive with your style and with your skin tone and things like that. Have fun with it though. I mean, it's makeup. Makeup is like hella fun, but if you're looking for, you know, how to start with eyeshadow, I personally recommend always learning how to do a neutral eye first and then building from there, right? So hopefully this helps. Feel free to drop me a comment. Please drop me a comment. Let me know if you like this little series. If you have any other questions, you can always DM me about technique, makeup, skincare. It doesn't matter. If you have questions about anything, just let me know. Leave a comment below. Leave me a thumbs up or a heart. This is not YouTube. This is IGTV. I gotta go eat dinner. So I hope this helped you guys.